we're here on a status hearing. Mr. Graff is with us for the department. Casa is with us. Mr. Michelson is with us representing the child. Mr. Adams is with us representing the father, Mr. Thibodeau, and alleged father, I show. Ms. Kincaid is with us representing the mother, Miss Barton. And we also have Bryson has joined us today. I guess. Is Bryson there?
He's on his way.
Okay. And I could barely hear you, sir.
Sorry, he's on his way.
All right. Mr. Adams, your client's not in the waiting room that I can see. Were you expecting your client?
No, Your Honor, I don't think anybody's been able to find him.
Okay. And Ms. Kincaid, were you expecting your client?
Your Honor, I am expecting her. We resent her the link. For some reason, she couldn't get on this morning. But we've been in contact with her this morning and she's supposed to be here.
Okay. I'll watch the waiting room to see if she makes it. Mr. Graff apparently fell out, so I'll get him back in.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, she called my office 5 minutes ago.
Okay.
So.
Sorry, Judge, I'm having trouble with my
Your
internet
Honor,
this
if
morning.
there's a period of waiting for the mother, I was wondering if I could speak with Bryson for a few minutes before the hearing.
Yeah, you can when he gets here.
Okay.
How long will it be before Bryson's here? We're running behind already.
He's 3 minutes away.
Okay. Okay, we're going to have to get going. We've got 13 minutes before our next hearing starts. I'll watch for Bryson, and Ms. Kincaid, I'll watch for Ms. Barton to come into the waiting room. Okay, Mr. Graff, you may proceed.
Status hearing, and the state, on behalf of the state, we are prepared to proceed.
Right.
Mr. Colwell, you're the current caseworker?
Excuse me. Mr. Colwell, if you'd unmute,
Mr.
let me
Graff.
swear you in.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Colwell, you're the current caseworker in this case, are you not?
Yes.
And have you been able to determine whether there've been any prior court actions involving such as a prior removal?
Prior to this removal, I don't think there was a removal.
Okay. And have you been able to serve all the parties?
Meaning to work with the parties?
The mother and the father specifically, have you been able to serve them?
The father we have not. The father we have not been able to serve.
Okay.
His
And what
whereabouts
efforts?
are unknown.
His whereabouts are unknown. Okay. What efforts have you made to try and locate him?
I believe we have done the finders.
Have the parties that you have notified, have you been able to have any of them completed an ICWA questionnaire?
I'm sorry, an EQUA questionnaire?
Yeah, to your knowledge, is the Indian Child Welfare Act applicable in
Oh,
this
I'm
case?
sorry. Yes, they have completed that, and there is no involvement or connection with that.
Okay. And have you created a service plan at this point in time?
Yes.
And was that created in collaboration with the mother?
Yes.
And did she sign the service plan?
Yes.
Okay. And did you file that with the court?
Yes.
Okay. What are the services that she's agreed to do?
A psychosocial evaluation, continued counseling, parenting classes, maintain transportation, housing, and her disability income. Verification
And it would,
of those things.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just verification of those things.
Okay. And would you say the services are narrowly tailored to address the needs of this family?
Yes.
Okay. And are you asking that the service plan be made in order of the court?
Yes.
Okay. And where is Bryson currently placed?
Boys to Men, Houston, Texas.
Okay. And how is he doing in that placement?
At this time, he's doing well.
Okay. And what efforts were made to find a fictive kin or a relative caregiver who could take care of Bryson?
We have, beginning with CPS and then ourselves, there are no relatives or fictive kin, I'm in contact with Lindsay's mother, who is a great support system for Lindsay and will be for Bryson. And Micah is the older sister, and she's not a good candidate for placement.
Looks like we lost Mr. Graff. There he is.
Judge, with the, I don't know if it's bandwidth problems in the office, but I'm wondering if the court would allow me to go off video while I finish my
Yep.
questioning. It might help with
Yep.
the internet connectivity problems.
Absolutely. We've got 8 minutes to finish this hearing. So yeah, you can turn your camera off.
Thank you, Judge. Okay, Mr. Colwell, I believe you said that there were no relatives or fictive kin available to take care of Bryson at this point in time. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And have you asked Bryson himself in a developmentally and age appropriate manner about possible placement options?
Yes, he is wanting to return home. He likes his current placement, but I believe he understands that that's not where he would want to stay until he becomes an adult.
Okay. And what reasonable efforts have been made to either return him home, since that looks to be the only viable option at this point outside of the care that he's in now?
Right. He is receiving therapy. He is learning new coping mechanisms. He has been exposed to a regular schedule, disciplined, structured environment. All of these things are preparing him to return home. And Lindsay is continuing with her counseling, developing, having a good reinforced support system with her mother. And so all of these things work towards possible return home.
All right. Let me interrupt you. Miss Barton's just entered the waiting room. Let's get her in.
Okay.
All right, for the record, Miss Barton, the mother, has now joined us. So, Mr. Graff, you can continue.
Thank you, Your Honor. And then Mr. Colwell, so has there been some tentative discussions, if things go well, about the possibility of a return home prior to the next school year?
There have been some tentative discussions with both the mother, grandmother, and my supervisor.
Okay. But for now, is it your testimony that he should be maintained as a TMC under the state this time?
Yes, at this time.
Okay. And do you believe that that plan is in the best interest of Bryson?
Yes, at this time.
Okay. And then last question with regard to the father again, are you requesting an order to grant substituted service, or has that already been done in this case?
I am not aware that that has been done.
Okay. So are you requesting that at this time then?
I would need to consult with my supervisor just so I understand that more fully, but I believe yes.
Okay. I pass this witness.
All right. Mr. Colwell, would it be a continuing danger to the physical health and safety of the child or to the family to return him home today?
Yes.
Would it be contrary to the child's welfare to be returned home today?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Ms. Kincaid, questions?
Thank you, Your Honor. Regarding Bryson, has he, since he's come into the care of the department, seen a doctor?
Yes.
Okay. And as a result of that, were there any referrals made?
It was brought to the doctor's attention, the various concerns that the mother had raised, and the doctor, upon examining him, he made no referrals.
Okay. So if there are any concerns, any ongoing health concerns, is that something that the department and Ms. Barton can work together to address?
Absolutely.
Okay. And is he on any medications?
Yes, he is.
Okay. Are any of those psychotropic medications?
Yes.
Okay. Is he, are those being monitored by a physician or a psychiatrist every 30 days?
Yes,
Okay. And your prior testimony is that, there's some conversations that have started that maybe he could return home before school starts in August if things go well.
yes,
Okay. But right now we're just working on stability. Is that correct?
yes.
Okay. And has Miss Barton submitted to you any alternative placements for Bryson?
No,
I'm sorry?
no,
Okay. Has she expressed any concerns to you about his current placement?
in the past, yes, but not currently.
Okay. And what were those concerns?
The concerns had to do with, as she understood it, allowing him to run away the first time, different things like that, allowing him to be, as he understood it, bullied, some confrontations with staff. But all of that has been resolved, and there's a better, clearer understanding of all of those various items that raised concern for her.
Okay. So regarding the bullying, is that something that, the placement is working on?
Yes, and as it turns out, it was not true bullying. It was as Bryson would say, it was a misunderstanding.
Okay. But, Bryson is on the autism spectrum. And so sometimes maybe he may feel like there's something going on. And
Yes, we have addressed every incident, and every effort has been made to correct any challenges that had manifested in the past.
okay. Thank you. I'll pass the witness.
All right. Mr. Colwell, the father is an alleged father, and he's not been located from what I read in the testimony I've heard. Has there been a service plan created for him, or is that going to be done after he's served?
There was one created in
Right.
Yes.
Is St. Francis or the department asking I go ahead and order that service plan for him today, and then we'll figure out once he is served whether or not he is the father?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Mr. Adams, questions?
No questions, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Michelson, questions?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Mr. Colwell, there was a hospitalization this month for Bryson, correct? On the 22nd?
Yes, of last month.
Excuse
Okay.
me, Mr. Max, let me interrupt. Just for the record, Bryson has now joined us.
Okay.
Go ahead.
He was hospitalized on the 22nd, correct?
Yes.
And how long was he hospitalized?
Approximately 4 days.
And what was the basis of the hospitalization?
Aggressive behavior, destruction of a window in his bedroom, running away. That was the basis. To have him evaluated and some time to maybe get some immediate treatment and evaluate his current mental health.
Okay. And what was the outcome of that hospitalization?
He was discharged back to Boys to Men. He did have, I spoke with him, he and professionals, he did have a good experience there. And I believe he's learned, they reviewed his medication. I believe that overall it was there's positive results of his time spent at West Oaks.
Was there any changes to his treatment plan?
The only change was one-to-one supervision, a heightened sense of supervision at Boys to Men.
Okay. And is he tolerating that supervision?
Yes, to my knowledge, yes.
Okay. Pass the witness, Your Honor.
All right. Anyone have further questions for Mr. Cope? All right. Mr. Graff, do you have any other witnesses?
No other witnesses, Your Honor.
Ms. Kincaid, witnesses?
Yes, I'd call Miss Barton, Your Honor. Thank you,
All
Your Honor. Miss Barton, I know that you came in a little bit late on the hearing due to some technical issues, but did you hear the caseworker's testimony that Bryson has seen a physician since he's come into care?
Yes, I have.
Okay, and that they didn't make any additional referrals?
Yes, I did. I don't agree.
Okay, so you've got some concerns that he may need to see a dermatologist?
That and an orthopedic surgeon. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, or an orthopedic doctor, whatever.
Yes.
Okay, so that's something that we can work with the department on.
I believe so, yes. He
Okay.
has scoliosis of his spine.
Okay, and concerning his current placement at Boys to Men, is that a placement that you believe is appropriate for him at this time?
I'm okay with it, but I just kind of thought that Bryson making all of the progression that he has, that he could be returned home.
Okay, so one of the goals is to try to get him home before school. Is that one of your goals?
I'd like to get him home as soon as possible.
Okay. And is that something that we can talk with the department about?
Yes, I kind of thought he would be released this month, but I guess not.
Okay, and in the meantime, you've got some services that you're working, is that correct?
Yes, his counselor's going to be in place, and I'm looking for a referral for the Turn Center. He still has his psychiatrist, and Imagine Pediatrics is also on board.
Okay, but concerning your counseling, you're doing that
Oh, yes, ma'am.
in compliance with your service plan.
Yes, ma'am. I was told by Mr. Cole that I'd have to be paying for my counseling, and that's fine. I've been paying for my counseling.
Okay, I'll pass the witness.
All right. Mr. Adams, oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, let's back up. Mr. Graff, you're next. Do you have any questions?
No questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Adams,
No questions.
Mr. Michelson.
No questions.
All right. Just for the record, I believe at the last hearing that we had in April, I think I had ordered that Bryson's be seen by a dermatologist. I had not heard anything about an orthopedic surgeon. Ms. Barton, why do you feel like he needs to see an orthopedic surgeon?
He has scoliosis,
Okay.
and I brought that up. It was supposed to be put in place. I had talked to Mr. Cal about it, and it was supposed to be put in place at last hearing.
What was supposed to be put in place?
That he see an orthopedic surgeon because of his back.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes,
All right.
sir.
Ms. Kincaid, any other witnesses?
No, Your Honor, I rest.
Mr. Adams, witnesses?
No witnesses, Your Honor. I rest.
All right. Mr. Michelson, any witnesses?
No witnesses. We rest.
Okay. All right. Mr. Michelson, recommendations?
I would recommend that the current placement continue and the department remain temporary managing conservator.
Okay. Casa, anything to add?
Nothing much further, Your Honor. He seems to be doing okay since his return from the hospital. And we would just like to continue placement at this time, so he can continue to get some of those needs taken care of.
Okay. All right, then. I will continue the department and Ms. Barton as joint managing conservators. I'll continue Bryson's current placement. I'll order the services as contained in the service plans for Ms. Barton and Mr. Thibodeau. And I will grant the request, and I will order substituted service on Mr. Thibodeau. And I will order that Bryson be seen by a dermatologist and an orthopedic surgeon. Ms. Barton, I just want to kind of explain something to you. You can talk to your lawyer. Ms. Kincaid will explain it in more detail, but this is a case, what we call a refusal to accept parental responsibility. And if you're saying you thought he would be home by now and you wanted him home by now, these cases are a little different than a regular removal because you asked that the department get involved. So talk to Ms. Kincaid about that. We don't have time to do it today, but we can certainly set a hearing on that to decide whether or not you want your son back and whether or not the court thinks it's okay to send him back to you. So that's how this case is a little different than a normal removal. So
Yes, sir.
just so you're aware of that. So, okay.
Yes, sir.
I will set the next initial permanency hearing unless something comes up about returning Bryson home. The next hearing will be scheduled for September 18th, 2024. And again, if we need to have a hearing on any other matters, just contact our office and we'll set a hearing much quicker than September 18th. Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. That will conclude this hearing. For those who are involved, I'll be back
Ms.
in
Schulte
just
is
a
covering
minute.
for Mr. Alvey. She's with us for the department.
Mr. Pirtle's with us representing the child. Ms. Kincaid is with us representing the mother. She's in the waiting room twice, and I'm trying to get her in on both of them, and she's still trying to join. Mr. Hill, the father, is not with us. He's been adjudicated at the last hearing. So, okay, we'll give it just a couple minutes more to see if the mother, Miss Graham, can join us. Then we'll have to go ahead and proceed.
Judge, if you'll give us a couple of minutes, could I speak with the attorneys just briefly? I'll be fast.
No, that's fine.
Thanks. We're back, Your Honor. Oh,
Okay, we're back. It looks like, Miss Kincaid, your client never joined and now she's not in the waiting room.
I see her up in the top
Oh,
corner.
okay. Oh, there she is. Okay, so Miss Graham is now with us. Again, Mr. Hill is
Sorry,
not
I
with us.
was trying to, it kept saying that I was joining, but then it said it was muted and everything.
Okay, all right. Okay, Miss Schulte, you may proceed.
I called Tim Koval.
Just for the record, I have read the report, so we can, maybe that will kind of help streamline the hearing. So go ahead, Miss Schulte.
Yes, Judge. Mr. Koval, did you file a report in this case?
I did.
Are there any updates since that report was filed?
Nothing new to report.
Because I know this has been an issue. What visitation is Ms. Graham having with Ryland at this point?
We had set up supervised video or phone visits between Ms. Graham and Ryland. However, Ryland was declining to participate other than one visit. And so what we have done since that point is set up family counseling with a therapist that is the current therapist for Ms. Graham to have family counseling with Ms. Graham and Ryland in a therapeutic setting to discuss what barriers there might be to resuming those communications. And so authorization has been made, and I believe that Tina Souter just is looking at her schedule and putting it on the schedule, last I heard.
Has St. Francis or placement been doing anything to hinder Ryland from having visits he wanted to participate in?
No, nothing at all.
And do you believe this therapeutic counseling would be in Ryland's best interest before any regular visitation schedules resumed?
I do.
Does Ryland remain in the same placement?
He does.
Is that placement continuing to meet his needs?
Yes.
Are you asking that the court maintain that placement?
Yes.
And at this time, would it be contrary to Ryland's well-being to be returned to either parent?
Yes.
Are you asking that the court be continued as Ryland's temporary managing conservator?
Yes.
I'll pass the witness.
All right. Mr. Coble, would it be a continuing danger or threat to either Ryland or to the Miss Graham to return him home today?
Yes.
And I read in the report that he wanted visitation with his father and his paternal grandfather. From what I read, Mr. Hill's not done much. Has there been a recommendation? Has there been a recommendation from Ryland's therapist on whether or not there should be any kind of visitation for Mr. Hill?
There has not been a recommendation. I would add, Judge, that Mr. Hill has not been able to be contacted in any form.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you. Ms. Kincaid?
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, Ryland is currently on how many medications?
6 different medications.
Okay, and how many of those are psychotropic medications?
That I would say the majority of them are psychotropic.
Okay, is that concerning for the department?
It has been a concern. Six is a lot. And what we would like to do is have a med review by Star Health. And I tried to do that, and apparently he had just been put on a new medication within the past 60 days when I requested that. And so per their protocol, he needs to be on the same medications for 60 days before they will review it.
Okay, and is that the independent medication review, or is that just with his regular doctor?
That's the independent review.
Okay, so hopefully we can reduce, because 6 is quite a lot. Hopefully we can reduce his medications as long as he remains stable.
That's correct.
But we can't do that until he's had 60 days on what he's on.
That's correct. And
Okay.
he did have, his most recent med review was on May the 14th with his psychiatrist.
Okay. And how old is Ryland? 16?
That is correct.
Okay. And at his age, are there any policies regarding having like a cell phone at his placement?
I believe that his placement does not provide a cell phone for individual use.
But if he were provided a cell phone by his mother, would he be permitted to have it there?
I would need to confer with his placement about that because that could create an issue when other kids don't have their own phone. I don't know for sure what that placement's policy is about that.
Okay. Thank you. I'll pass witness.
All right, thank you, Mr. Pirtle.
Oh, no questions.
All right. Ms. Schulte, anything further of Mr. Koval?
Nothing further, Judge.
All right, anything further from the department?
Nothing further, Judge.
Ms. Kincaid, any witnesses?
Yes, I'd call Ms. Graham. Thank you, Your Honor. Okay, there are a few things that you wanted to bring to the court's attention today. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And one of the concerns that you have is that you feel like the group home doesn't provide him with enough supervision,
Yes, ma'am.
and that, you know, your wish is that he be placed in an RTC.
Yes, ma'am. That was always my wish.
Okay. And one of the reasons for that was the reason that you asked for the department's help. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And it's your belief that at the initial adversary hearing that you believe that the judge had ordered that. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you have concerns about his medications as well,
Yes, ma'am.
and that you're hopeful that we can get this medication review done as soon as possible. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And one of the big concerns that you've got with his current placement, among other things, is what you believe to be a restriction of his visitation with you.
With all of us. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And who else would you like for him to have visits with?
Well, my daughter has been able to go pick him up, but I know that he wants to be able to call any of us freely. And it'd be nice if I could go down there and pick him up on weekends, or that he could spend time with family members.
Okay. So your daughter is one person that you would like for him to be able to visit with.
He has been able to meet with her. They had a 6-hour visit, I believe, once, and she's trying to get another visit with them.
Okay. And also paternal grandparents. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And do you believe that it would be or you've heard the testimony that Ryland's father has not participated in services. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
But do you believe it would be in Ryland's best interest for him to be able to talk with his father if he wanted?
Yes, ma'am. I do. He loves his dad, and his dad loves him. It's not a situation of, Ryan's abandoned him. I really don't know what to say. He just doesn't want to deal with all of this, I guess. But I know that Ryland is very close with his dad, and he loves his dad, and him being told that he can't speak to his dad it's not good.
Okay. And Ryland has actually lived with his dad in the past. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And that was last year. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The other thing that you wanted to clear up to the department or with the judge is that you are employed.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're an independent contractor and you provide in-home care.
Yes, ma'am.
And so, if a client passes away, you may not have a client for a period of time, but you get new clients over.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so during the course of this case, you've had at least 2 clients.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you also wanted to clarify that you have stable housing. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And that you live with your cousin. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And there is no rental agreement between the two of you, and there is no lease because she owns the home. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And at the beginning of this case, you had a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home of your own, but it's empty, and so you live with your cousin. Is that correct?
Well, right before the case started, I had a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house, but Ryland was living with his dad, and then my client passed away. So I moved out because I was paying $950 a month for a house with no kids. So yeah, I moved out of the house after my client passed away. And then when all of this began, I moved in with my cousin.
Okay,
And
but but that's stable housing, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And at any point, if you wanted, or if the department would be more assured, you could go get an apartment or a house, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
But the housing that you're in now is stable and appropriate,
Yes, ma'am.
and has a worker come by and observed your home.
Yes, all of them have.
Okay. And this is something that we've discussed, but you are concerned that in the orders, there's a finding that you're a continuing danger to the child,
Yes, ma'am.
and that you don't agree with that. You think that you're not a continuing danger to him, and that the issue was that you needed help for Ryland.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you. I'll pass the witness.
All right, thank you. You know, I'll tell you, Ms. Graham, to be honest, the court doesn't put much stock in those orders when they say continuing danger, but based on what I've seen from the start of this case, I am going to order that no future orders contain that language that Ms. Graham is a continuing threat to Ryland. And rest assured, I'm not. It has no basis in what I do in this case. Okay, Ms. Schulte, did you have questions for Ms. Graham?
No, Judge.
Okay, Mr. Hurdle.
No questions.
Okay, all right, Ms. Kincaid, any other witnesses?
No, Your Honor, I rest.
All right, then, Mr. Pirtle, did you have any witnesses?
Your Honor, I'd like to call my client, Ryland.
Well, I don't know that Ryland's with us.
He's supposed to be.
He is not in the waiting room. So he is not with us that I can see.
Okay. If I can't call him Judge, then that's okay. I have no witnesses.
All right, then give me your recommendation, please.
Well, Your Honor, I believe that the child's in a safe and stable environment. I'd recommend the child remain where he's at. I would like to see investigating whether or not the child could have a phone to contact his family members, and more visitation, which if he's willing to do that, especially in a family counseling session.
Okay. All right, then. I don't know that we have anybody. I'm not sure Costa's in this case. So.
Yes, Your Honor.
Oh, okay. I'll make a note. You're not listed on me. So, okay. Ms. Talley, any recommendations you want to add?
I mean, we agree with the ad litem, Your Honor. I would think that if we could run everything by the therapist just for all of his contacts, we fully believe he needs to have as much contact with family and visitation. So if we could move that forward with, if he chooses to have visits with his mom in person, things of that nature, like he's having with his sister, we would be in full agreement with that, Your Honor.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I can't make orders I don't want to get him kicked out of his placement. So everything in these kind of situations, I have to do just what is allowed by the placement. I will make an observation though, to move him from a group home to an RTC, unless his condition is deteriorating, it's going to make everything harder. It's going to make visitation harder. It's going to be stricter. And I really don't have much control over what RTC rules are. So just keep that in mind. What I've heard then, I will continue the department as temporary managing conservator, continue Ryland's current placement. I will order, I know it's already in process, but just to be sure it doesn't fall through the cracks, I will order the family therapy in a therapeutic setting between Ms. Graham and Ryland. And if Mr. Hill ever chooses to participate, it might be good for him to be in it too. I will order an independent medical review of Ryland's medications by Star Health as soon as their protocols allow. And I don't know any other way to do it. I'm just going to order that Ryland be allowed as much visitation with Sierra Lee, Harvey Hill, and Ryland Hill, his father, as recommended by Ryland's therapist. And that would be, I have no problem with it being, if he can see his sister outside of the therapeutic setting, I don't see why he certainly shouldn't be able to see Miss Graham. So, Miss Graham, you got your hand up?
Yes, sir. My daughter would also like to participate in the family therapy, if possible.
Okay, that's fine with me as long as Ryland's therapist recommends it. I have to leave it up to the experts on that, and that's kind of it can be a dicey situation to get siblings in on that type of counseling. So if she's been able to see him and take him for several hours at a time, I can't see a therapist not wanting that not seeing that that wouldn't be beneficial. So I have no problem with it unless the therapist gives me a reason to have a problem with it. So,
Okay.
okay. Then that will conclude this hearing. Our next permanency hearing will be set for September 18th, 2024. That will be by Zoom like today's hearing, so parties and attorneys can go on the court's online docket a day or two in advance of September 18th to see exactly what time we'll have that hearing. Participate. Ms. Schulte is covering for Mr. Albee for the department. Mr. Michelson is with us representing the children. Ms. Lucero is with us representing the father, Mr. Garcia Espino, who is with us. And Ms. Garcia, the mother, is with us. Again, Mr. Taylor, her attorney, is not with us. I'm going to give it a couple more minutes to see if we can't find him, and then we'll proceed without him if we can't locate him.
Your Honor,
Yes.
he sent an email to us, to everyone yesterday. I believe he's having a surgical procedure today. I don't know if maybe you haven't had a chance to see that email from Mr. Taylor.
I haven't seen it. Haley, did we get it?
No, I never received anything yesterday.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Well, it is what it is. So, okay, we'll go ahead and proceed then. Ms. Garcia, you can, after his procedure, you can talk to him. And if there's anything that you and he agree should have been covered or something you didn't like about today's hearing, he'll know how to file a motion for rehearing, and I will most likely grant it. So, okay, Ms. Schulte, you may proceed.
Judge, is there a Kinsey Chu in the waiting room?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't go over the waiting list. I'll get her in. I also have Moses Campa, Brianna Graham, Megan Jepcott, Galen Couts, and Jennifer Campos.
Megan Jeffcott is the supervisor.
Okay, I'll let her in. Brianna Graham's for our next hearing.
I just got off the phone with Bill Taylor's office, and she said that somebody's supposed to be covering for him. She didn't remember the name, so she's trying to get a hold of him to see if they're coming. So I don't know.
Okay, let's give it just a couple more minutes. I don't have anybody that I recognize as an attorney in our waiting room, so we'll give it a couple more minutes before we go forward. Okay, we're running behind. We're going to go ahead and get started. All right, Ms. Schulte, you may proceed, and I have read the report for today's compliance hearing.
I would Kinsey Chu.
Okay.
Sorry, I heard back from Bill Taylor's office, and he wasn't able to find anybody to cover.
Okay, all right. Ms. Chu, if you raise your hand. Ms. Schulte?
Are you the FBSS worker for this case?
Yes, ma'am.
Since your report that was filed, have parents engaged in or completed any other services?
Yes, ma'am. On the parenting class, Gustavo completed it on 5/28. Individual counseling, to my knowledge, they are both ongoing with that service. And Liliana is working on getting logged into her parenting class, but she's just having technical difficulties that she's having to contact the help desk for.
Has she since agreed to sign the release of information for, I believe it was the domestic violence class?
Yes, ma'am. She said she would sign that.
Are there any other services that they have not taken steps to engage in?
I'm not positive if they have initiated the rational behavior training, but I told them both that I would contact the provider's office and see what dates are available and help them get that started.
Are they maintaining contact with you?
Yes, ma'am.
And do we have any concerns about their progress in services or about the children at this point?
No, ma'am. Everyone is doing well.
Are you asking that this be set out for another review hearing in about 60 days?
Yes, ma'am.
I'll pass the witness.
All right, thank you. Ms. Chu, I may have been the one that brought it up at the last hearing, but in the original affidavit for the motion to participate, the order to participate, sorry, it appeared to me that there had been a lot of past domestic violence between these parents, and that at one point, the mother even said that she'd been with the father 5 years, and there's been domestic violence for 5 years. Is that accurate?
I do not have knowledge of that. I was not on the last hearing, but I do know that we are involved for domestic violence. Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, I posed the question last time why Mr. Garcia was not ordered to do the BIP class, and I thought I'd probably hear something about that today. Now, they haven't started their counseling. Sometimes St. Francis and the department decide to cover the domestic violence through counseling, but are you aware of what we're doing? I mean, this seems to me like a classic case where you'd be asking that I order he complete the BIP class.
I would agree to that. That would be good for Gustavo, I believe.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Then, Ms. Lucero, do you have any questions?
Your Honor, I don't have any questions. I just have some information for the court, but I don't have any questions for Ms. Chu.
Okay, go ahead.
Your Honor, as far as the domestic violence, well, the BIP class, I believe that, if I'm not mistaken, we had discussed at the last hearing to see if there had been no, I know there'd been allegations of it, but there had been no arrest. I double checked with with Gustavo before the hearing, and there hasn't been anything there. Again, it's all based, on allegations. So it was my understanding that the court was going to wait to see if we could address any kind of domestic violence through the counseling, but I didn't think that we were going to be doing BIP classes at this time.
Well, all I recall saying is that I was curious why BIP wasn't ordered, and I'd be happy to hear something at today's hearing about whether or not I should order it. So I will do this. It may make this case drag out. Some counselors will say, yeah, I can address the domestic violence through counseling. Some say, nope, that's not what I do. And that's why we have BIP. So the department or St. Francis can, if the counselor says they won't deal with that, then you can ask me to order it. I'm not trying to micromanage your case, but it sure seems to me that some type of domestic violence treatment is warranted here. So anyway, that's all I'll say about it today. Okay. Does anybody have, well, I need to ask Ms. Garcia if you would unmute.
Yes, sir.
Since Mr. Taylor couldn't be here today, and I think you probably heard me, if there's anything that you didn't like about today's hearing or anything Mr. Taylor thinks should have been addressed, he'll know how to file a motion for rehearing, and I'm telling you right now, I'll grant it if that comes down to it. He couldn't help it that he had to have a medical procedure, and apparently he tried to find somebody to have it. So do you have any questions you'd like to pose to Ms. Chu today?
No, sir. That would be it.
Okay. Sounds like you're doing all you can. I know there's waiting lists for a lot of these services. So anyway, okay then.
Thank you.
Anything else from the department?
No, Judge.
Okay. Ms. Garcia, anything else you needed to tell me today?
No, sir. Other than with this case and everything going on, we will be moving to Oklahoma within the next month or two. And we talked to our CPS worker about it and everything, and it's just something that we want to run by and clear everything just so my classes aren't interrupted, and any further court dates or anything like that, that we'll be able to maintain those as well.
Okay. All right. If you've informed the department or St. Francis, then you've done all that is required of you. So, okay. Thank you for telling me that.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I'm Lorraine Lucero again. I meant to add, I had spoken with Gustavo. He hasn't seen the kids in 3 weeks or so. There are no other court orders out there besides this order to participate. So I wasn't sure if you would have any jurisdiction to order any kind of visits with him and the children in this case or not.
Are the kids with mom?
Yes.
I don't have a problem, Mr. Garcia, having visitation. I will order that any visitation will be supervised. So, and I don't know how the schedules are set up, but I don't have a problem with him getting to see his children as long as it's supervised. Okay. Ms. Lucero, did you have any witnesses?
No witnesses, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Michelson, any witnesses?
No witnesses, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Michelson, recommendations?
I would recommend that this case continue for a compliance hearing, and that Gustavo be screened for domestic violence services, whether that's appropriate or not.
Okay.
And I noticed at the last drug test was 516 for a UA that was positive. I would recommend another UA to see her progress.
Okay. Positive on who and for what?
It looks like the specimen was transmitted on 5/16/24 for Liliana Garcia, and it was positive for marijuana.
Okay. You may not know, Mr. Michelson, was Mr. Garcia tested and he was negative?
I don't see any drug results for Mr. Garcia.
Okay.
Or Mr. Espino.
Okay. Well, let me go back and see. All right. Thank you for that, Mr. Michelson. Give me just a second.
Sure.
I know it's not Next Step in Pampa anymore. What's the name of the new place?
I believe it's Prestige.
Prestige. Okay. Thank you. All right, then. Give me just a second to find us another hearing.
Judge, also real quick, in Bill Taylor's letter, he did say that he has not been able to successfully contact Ms. Garcia. He said that the phone number that she provided is not receiving calls at this time. And so he didn't have anything for this hearing anyways since the last hearing.
All right, Ms. Garcia, if you would contact Bill Taylor's office and give him a good contact number for you, maybe an email address and a telephone number so that there's no miscommunication there.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Judge, I asked Haley for September 4th for the next compliance hearing.
Yeah, I was going to
If
say,
that works.
I've got August 7th or September 4th. So September 4, okay with you, Ms. Chu? Okay. All right, then. Okay, I will set our next compliance hearing for September 4th, 2024. It will be by Zoom, just like today's hearing, so parties and attorneys can go on the court's online docket a day or two in advance of September 4th to see exactly what time we'll have that hearing. I will order the parents to continue working the services previously ordered. I'll order that Mr. Espino may have supervised visitation, and I will order both parents to both Hairstrand and UA, so we'll have a baseline. Order Hairstrand and UA drug screen by 4 p.m. today at Prestige Drug Services there in Pampa. Okay, we'll see you back on September 4th. We'll stand in recess for those of you involved. I'll be back here. Ms. Schulte is covering for Mr. Albee for the department. Ms. Nelson's with us for CASA. Mr. Harris is with us representing the children. Ms. Archer's with us representing the mother, Ms. Graham, who is with us. The alleged father to Jesse with us. And the father to Dakota is not with us. For the record, Ms. Graham has now joined us, and she was with us in the waiting room most of the morning. So, all right, Mr. Poplin, Mr. Breyer not here. Ms. Grant's in a jury trial. This case was set for 10:20. It's 10:50. We will proceed in their absence. You may proceed, Ms. Schulte, and I have read the report.
I called Jennifer Campos. Are you the permanency specialist for this case?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you write and file a court report?
Yes, ma'am.
Since you filed that court report, have there been any changes?
There have not been any significant changes other than I mean, the kids are doing well in both placements. I have asked to see if we could move Dakota closer to Region 1. I don't know if that's going to be possible or not, but just so that way Brianna and them could have in-person visits.
Has the time on her virtual visits increased?
They are still doing 30 minutes for virtual, just because he doesn't interact or anything. He'll smile and play, but you know, he's not verbal, so he doesn't talk or anything. So we just do 30 minutes for those.
Okay. Sorry, I'm covering and reading your notes. Is it Jesse that the visits have been increased?
Yes, ma'am, for Jesse to 2 hours.
Okay. And are those visits going well?
Yes, they are.
Are we working on what we can to help mom with her housing?
Yes, ma'am.
And what has she been referred to?
She has spoken with HUD, and I referred her to Panhandle Community Services. I think that's the name of it, for their housing program.
Do you have concerns about the suitability of her current home if the children were to be returned there?
I do. There's some damage on the inside of the home that concerns me. The house is clean, but there are damages that, concern me if the children were to be placed there.
Particularly the younger one who has some medical needs.
Yes, ma'am.
Does Ms. Graham have transportation? for
She does
herself and
not.
children?
Sorry.
Is she working on what she can to get her services set up?
Yes, ma'am. She is.
Have you had any contact with Mr. Coughlin or Mr. Breyer?
I have not had any contact with either one.
At this time, are you asking that the children's current placement be continued and maintained?
Yes, ma'am.
Would it pose a continuing danger to return them to the home of either parent?
Yes, ma'am.
Or are you asking that the department be continued as their temporary managing conservator?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there anything else that you're asking the court to order today?
No, ma'am.
I'll pass the witness.
All right, thank you. Ms. Campos, Dakota's, he's placed in a medical needs placement, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And does that make it even harder to get him back into Region 1 because that's a specialized type of placement?
Yes, sir.
But do you believe it's necessary because of his current physical condition?
Yes, sir. He definitely needs to be in a medically needy home.
Okay, all right, thank you. And is he getting ECI services?
Yes, I believe so. I believe he gets physical therapy, occupational therapy, and stuff like that. So yes.
All right, thank you. Ms. Archer?
Have there been some issues regarding the video visitation?
There has, yes, ma'am.
Are you working to get those fixed?
Yes, there has actually been the person that watches the visit, there has been a change to that. And so I did make it known that she needs to contact foster mom of Dakota to make sure that she is logging on to those visits because, we forget. So it's better to call her before the visit starts so that way she'll log on, because she'll log on. That's what happened last time. So,
well, thank you for addressing that. Will the missed visits be able to be made up?
yes, I believe that the person that's going to watch the visit is going to make up the visits that have been, at least I know one visit that's been missed.
Oh, wonderful. And I know you said that you've assisted in the housing issue. Can you tell me if anything's been done to help set up the counseling sessions?
Yes, I sent in the service authorization for Derek Milam, and I gave Brianna the phone number for her to call him. And she said that the last time I spoke to her, she had called him and he hadn't returned her phone call. So I'm not for sure if that's the case now.
Okay, well, thank you for helping with that. I'll pass the witness.
All right, thank you. Mr. Harris.
Thank you, Judge. Ms. Campos, is placement working on a stroller and a car seat for Dakota at this time?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. And also we're working to, placement is working to get braces for his legs to assist him there. Is that also true?
Yes, sir.
Okay. He's doing the best he can with what he's got where he is. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Good. Okay. Judge, that's all I have.
All right. Anyone else have further questions for Mrs. Campos? All right, Ms. Schulte, any other witnesses?
No, Judge.
Thank you. Ms. Archer, any witnesses?
No, Judge.
Thank you. Mr. Harris, any witnesses?
No, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Harris, recommendations?
Yes, Judge. The current placement is safe and appropriate for both children and in their best interest.
All right, thank you. Ms. Nelson, CASA have anything to add?
We don't, Your Honor. We agree with Mr. Harris.
Okay. All right, then I will continue the department's temporary managing conservator and continue the children's current placements. We'll have our next hearing, a permanency hearing on September 18th, 2024. That will be by Zoom like today's hearing, so parties and attorneys can go on the court's online docket a day or two in advance of September 18th to see what time we'll have that hearing. So, all right, we'll stand in recess on this case. For those involved, I'll be back at 11:15. Ms. Schulte is covering for Mr. Albee for the department. Casa is with us with Ms. Nelson. Ms. Kincaid is with us representing the children. And Ms. Archer is with us representing the mother, Ms. Sherman, who is with us.
I would call Cameron Sherman.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Sherman, if you would, please raise your right hand.
And you don't need to give me an address, but in what city and state do you live?
I just moved our family to San Marcos, Texas to be closer to all of my family and then the kids' grandparents as well. And I can provide an exact address if that is needed.
No, ma'am, we're on YouTube, so you probably don't want your address broadcast over YouTube. So
do you know what county
Yes,
you're
sir.
living in?
Thank you. Do I know what county I'm living?
Yes.
Yes.
all right, she's breaking up.
HAYS.
I'm sorry, you were breaking up.
I'm sorry, did you hear me? Okay, I'm in Hayes County, HAYS.
Okay. Do you have 3 children?
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm sorry to ask you this, but is the father of all 3 children deceased?
Yes, ma'am. He passed away at the end of January.
I'm so sorry. Prior to that, were the 2 of you married?
Yes. We've been together 15 years, and on Sunday we were married for 10 years. We've been together a total of 15 years.
What